Joseph says, in the world of intent, your culture can play a big part. Yes, correct. Culture can play a big part even without the world of intent, yeah, because it's a predominant influence on our behavior. Now, currently in Afghanistan, the Taliban has made new rules that women are not allowed to speak or even read from a book in public. They're also not allowed to, excuse me, look at men they are not related to. Those ladies may have an intent to do what Bina is doing, but the culture will not allow it. Correct. Now, intent
this
is
is
very...
sorry to say, but it is very funny for me because this is the most scared people ever exist on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Really, these
Who now?
people.
You're talking about the Taliban, right? The men.
Yes. Yes.
No. No. It's insecure is a better word, I think. Wow.
Yes.
Profoundly insecure that you're so worried that your woman looking at another man suddenly what's she gonna do? I mean, it absolutely fascinates me.
And the only defense or the excuse they have, they are hugely big time manipulators, VMNs, and they use on top of that they use religion for that, which is complete absolute nonsense. Sorry.
Intent is very powerful. Plus, intent is an overview perspective. It's an overview energy, right? When we understand that, now we come to a different understanding of intent. For instance, the woman may have an intent to get this resolved. They might not be able to do so in the immediate local situation. But over time, that intent does change things. Like, for instance, in other parts of the world where, that type of behavior was common. As a matter of fact, at some point in the world, in all parts of the world, pretty much, or at least 99% of it, 90% of it, the majority of the world, it was common, right? Go back in Western history, yeah, this male dominance insecurity, it goes back to your roots, of, I mean, we can look at it in our our siblings that are closely related to us from a genetic point of view, right? That have 99%, I think it's 99.3% the same DNA as us, right? I'm talking about chimpanzees, right? Chimpanzees, gorillas, right? In all the great apes, they all share the same jealousy, insecurity, right? It comes from a scarcity mindset, protective mindset. It's all the roots of superiority paradigm. But intent does make a difference, just not right away. Right? Intent is fairly slow because intent is asking, when you set an intent, you're asking the whole world to change in order to benefit you, for you to get what exactly you want, right? And yes, it can apply locally, but typically, that local is connected to everything else. So there's a trickle-down effect, and you're asking the whole world to change. But if you keep in mind over the long period, then it does matter. Intent really does matter, and things happen in ways that can't really be foreseen, and change comes about, whether those people now want it or not. Those guys in the Taliban that are doing this, they are doing something which they have to spend inordinate amounts of energy in order to maintain that particular status quo. And whenever you spend excessive amounts of energy, and you have to go over and above and go so crazy, we can just look at history. These efforts are almost always doomed to failure, right? They over the long period, the longer term, they don't last. Now, when we also understand lessons from an attunement point of view, and I'm going into a very big topic here in a very brief way, but also we have to understand that sometimes, not sometimes, almost always, we are in the situation we are because we also need to learn something. It's not just the men that need to learn there, the women also. They need to learn how to make their intent more clear. They need to learn how to, change things in ways that, to find ways other than the prevailing, use violence or dominance or whatever. There's so many lessons that needed to be learned. Yes. And I've dealt with many people who have, experienced profound trauma. And when they come to understand that, yes, the trauma, the other person who was doing it, they were wrong, bad, mad, crazy, whatever. But that's not the end of the story. It's not just a one-sided deal. There was things they needed to learn as well, right? And they have some part to play in this. And when we look at things in that context, now we start to see what is the underlying agenda from the universe point of view. Whether you believe in the universe or not, it's not about believing in the universe. You could say, well, it's my subconscious's intent, or whatever you want to ascribe it to is irrelevant. The point is that when we look at things through the lens and perspective of the enhancement and development of awareness, then it all starts to make sense, right? Now, you're in that situation and you say, ooh, if everything is about the enhancement and development of awareness, what do I need to do to my awareness to deal with the situation? Sometimes you need to shift your awareness to learn to endure, to forbear, to wait, to have patience for things to change of their own accord when you are completely helpless, right? Let's say like you're a prisoner of war, or like these women. I mean, you could call them prisoners of war in a sense, right? The men are making war on the women there. What you're a prisoner. And as such, though, things don't always stay the same if you're a prisoner, right? The external world changes.